This is Paul Young shouting out from Portland, Maine. Out of righteous rage, frustration, and disgust at the corporate feeding trough Congress has become, pre-adolescents are forming their own political parties, and it's high time we have a plain-spoken American conversation. For 10 years, we've lived in fear of terror, of war, of economic collapse. Mainly, we fear losing our jobs, our health insurance, and our ability to make a decent living for our families. Those 15 million Americans who already have lost their jobs are terrified that they may never work again. Yet our fear has not saved us. Rather, it has paralyzed us and blocked us from thinking and acting clearly. Our fear directs us to ignore the irreparable damage callous, greedy, degenerate bastards are doing to our country, our planet, and our way of life. Our safety, our security, and our pursuit of happiness have all been outsourced. With rare exceptions, these greedy bastards own the very people we put in office to keep these kind of things from happening. Some years ago, the director of the citizens advocacy group Common Cause said, "If the American people knew what went on in this town on a day-to-day basis, they'd march on Washington and burn it to the ground." She was talking about corporations buying Congress, about lobbyists, not legislators, writing laws to benefit their corporate masters, and about Congress selling out the American people. Every day, they give away a little bit more, secretly and in the dark. This week, these leprous whores have put Medicare and Medicaid on the chopping block. No, I'm not kidding. At a time nearly 50 million Americans are uninsured and many more are losing benefits. House Majority Leader Eric Cantor of Virginia and House Budget Committee Chairman Paul Ryan of Wisconsin are leading the Republican offensive to kill Medicare and Medicaid. This is the centerpiece of their proposed package of further tax cuts for the rich and spending cuts for social programs that affect mainly low-income Americans. Economist Paul Krugman has called this idiotic budget ludicrous and cruel. Social Security is next on their hit list. If you have any doubt about what I'm saying, I urge you to read an important new book by Chris Hedges, a former foreign correspondent for the New York Times. It's called Death of the Liberal Class. In it, Hedges details why reforming public institutions is no longer possible. He lays out the full extent of the corporate rape of our country and the high crimes that were necessary to achieve it. For example, Hedges puts the full cost of the federal bailout of banks, investment banks, insurance companies, and car makers at $13 trillion, yes, trillion dollars, equal to 92% of our gross national product. He talks about the rise of corporate defense contractors that have assumed many of the duties of our military, with none of the obligations, while funding permanent profitable war around the world. It's a book about what's happening right now, how the America we once knew, the America of infinite possibility for the average working man and woman, is disintegrating in a corrosive fog of greed, corruption, and calculated dishonor. Accomplices in all this are the lying, traitorous Pharisees in Congress who pretend to represent and protect the people, and the lying, weak quisling in the White House who pretends to love the people, but who already is negotiating away Medicare and Medicaid and a host of important social programs. Flash to Obama. It doesn't matter that you're President of the United States. Your corporate masters don't and will never consider you an equal. You can't join their club. You can't make them like you by giving them the delicious lunch your mom packed for you. To them, you can only be a caddy in their club, or maybe the maitre d'. Wake up, Mr. President, and fulfill your brilliant personal promise and your promises to the American people while you're still in office. I suppose the logical outcome of all this is a country in which all citizens have become the top 20%, who now own 84% of our national wealth. A place where no one produces anything, not even waste, where everyone finances and insures, merges and acquires, where industry and steel and roads and bridges and housework and cooking and cleaning up after are outsourced to foreigners, all of whom are legal, non-union workers. So now you say, okay, Paul, what do we do about it? Well, the first thing we do is stop believing the lies these whores are telling us about what's really going on and dig up our own information. Read Chris Hedges' book. The Scottish balladeer Bill McRiley isn't telling you the truth. The stinky cheese man Rush Limburger isn't telling you the truth. They're entertainers who are paid fantastic sums by their masters to lie to you, to steer you away from real information and real action. It's going to take some work, but at the end of the day, you'll know you have real information and can act on the basis of facts, not bullshit. Then I want you to look at the extreme measures the greedy bastards have taken to castrate and destroy unions around the country. Look at what's happening with state workers in Wisconsin and Ohio, in Florida and New Jersey. Look at how Sheraton Hotels is trying to destroy the Hotel Workers Union in Alaska. Then ask yourself why. Why are they trying to turn back the clock 100 years and kill organized labor along with all the benefits it negotiated for working people? Ask yourself that, and you'll understand what the real war is about and who our real enemy is. The enemy within. It doesn't matter how you feel about them. Unions made the American middle class possible. You have an 8-hour workday because of unions. You get a paid vacation because of unions. You receive compensation if you're injured on the job because of unions. You have employer-paid health care because of unions. And finally, you have Medicaid and Medicare and Social Security when your labor in the workplace is done because of unions. When you understand what the greedy rapists of the planet are trying to do to unions and organized labor all over the world, you'll see what they're determined to do to you and your families. Before the catastrophe that's in the wind hits us full force, I think we have to shut this thing down. We have to be able to stand up on our hind legs, get good and mad, and lose our fear and say to ourselves, this is what I have to do, though the heavens fall. We have to shut down this insane, anti-human, cannibalistic puppet show. It exists only to profit a handful of vampires and whores who were born without souls and who will happily make a meal of the entire world. How about this? Stop working. For a day, a week, a month. Just stop the machine for that period of time. Will they fire you? Maybe. Will you find support in your families or churches or among others who also are stopping the machine? Of course you will. But there's no doubt whatever that this insane man-eating thing must grind to a halt, either through our deliberate actions or because it has consumed us all. Whether it's legal or not, organize and strike. Stop working. Finally, however you can, as soon as you can, pay off your debts. A free man or woman is one without debt, including a mortgage. Imagine for a moment how that will feel. No long-term financial obligations hanging over you, no more stress about where the money to service your debts is coming from. Freedom. We must be free men and women to resist our own powerlessness and the destruction of our country. I'm speaking to you 146 years after the death of Abraham Lincoln and the end of the Civil War, a war that was fought over one human being's right to own another. In these days, when the wicked prosper on our backs, have we won our freedom? Are we not still enslaved, after all? The historian Barbara Fields was a consultant on Ken Burns's deeply moving and deeply brilliant documentary on this war. Of our time, she said that so long as great wealth can exist alongside someone sleeping on the street, the Civil War is still being fought. And regrettably, it can still be lost. Thank you for watching. I look forward to your comments on this irregular series of rants. God bless you, and God bless the United States of America.